recording started now. All right, welcome everyone this afternoon to the latest installment of the Land Use and Ethics Subcommittee. I am your chair, Vaughn Stewart. I am a little bit under the weather today, so I apologize for my voice isn't as melodious as it usually is. We're going to start off with SB 517, Port of Deposit State Historic Park Planning. If y'all remember this bill, we did have the House bill. We did not pass the House bill ahead of crossover. The Senate has tacked on some pretty substantive amendments to their version that basically delay the effective date of when this transfer has to occur of the park property from this this sort of quasi-governmental agency to DNR. And it also has a mandated appropriation. If y'all remember, two of the big lingering problems here were basically time and money, and the Senate has tried to fix both. Patrick, do you have any other color to add so that folks can, and Colin, you can probably start scrolling through the amendments, but Patrick, if you have any other color you can add to the amendments.
Just to clarify, the appropriation is not actually mandated, it's authorized.
Okay.
But it's authorized at a minimum of 400,000. And usually when you authorize an appropriation, you expect it to come through. So that's why we're waiting for approval from appropriations on the fiscal note. And then we also, the amendments modify the membership of the advisory committee for DNR on the scope and management of the park, the new park. And then there's a new report required to be submitted by DNR to the General Assembly in 2024 on their progress and the like.
Yeah, and I guess the most important point here is, if y'all remember, this bill was the subject of a lot of sort of acrimonious disagreement among the local council and the local county executive and the local delegation. My understanding is that with these amendments, everyone is actually on the same page. So I think this is one of those rare situations where we can credit the Senate for doing some good work here. And so the amendments before us just basically would are just the Senate amendments. And I guess technically, since the Senate bill is amended, we actually don't have any amendments, right? So this would be if we wanted to accept the amendments, this would actually just be a clean favorable. Delegate Holmes.
Correct.
Yeah, I was wondering about the approval.
Yeah.
Is it the intent to move it and then wait for the appropriations approval afterwards, after we move it out?
I think that would probably be my preference, Delegate Holmes. I think that it sounds like the Senate did get approval on this, so I think the money is there. We do want to have approval from pros before we send this to the floor, but I think just for timing purposes, I think it makes sense. I'm comfortable voting on this today if the subcommittee is going ahead and pushing this out and then holding it for a full committee voting session until we can hear back from the chairman of appropriations.
I move the amendments, Mr. Chair.
And there's no amendments. It's just a favorable on the Senate amendments.
Oh, I see. I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
well, I move
Senate third reader we're working on.
Yeah, exactly. This is the third reader version.
Perfect.
Okay, so you move the bill.
I move the bill, Mr. Chair.
Is there a second?
Second.
There is a motion and it's been properly seconded. Is there any final discussion on this Senate bill before we vote? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye or raise your hand.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Any opposed? Seeing none, looks like we're going to pass that bill, SB 517, unanimously. Thank y'all. We'll move on to the next bill, and thanks, Patrick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yep.
A question for you. Is there a cross-file, House cross-file?
There is a House cross-file. I think right now, I think the intention is not to touch it. We may end up pushing that out and conforming it. And if we do, that'll just go straight to full committee.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, there is a House cross-file though. We did not touch that one. In fact, I think, we were somewhat negatively disposed of that until the Senate amendments came along and got everyone on the same page. Okay. We will move on to HB 239/SB 382. These are two cross-file bills that establish an ADU work group. Y'all will probably remember this one well, both because we had a House bill hearing and because we recently had a Senate bill hearing with Senator Washington. We have tacked on some committee amendments here to the original bill that put it a little bit closer to the version that the Senate passed out, but not identical to the version the Senate passed out. And I'm going to pass it over to Matt Michler to sort of run through how our bill or how these House amendments differ from the Senate amendments.
Sure. So first, difference is just a technical difference in the purpose paragraph. To make it a little easier to adopt some of the other amendments. I'm working off of the Senate bill version because it's a little bit easier to see what the House did. That's SB 382 with 903-324-1. Scrolling down into the membership piece, there were a couple representative groups that were added, including one representative of MACO and MML from an urban county or municipality, and one representative of each organization from a rural county or municipality. So some membership changes. The House did add back in on page 3 of the PDF, one individual with professional experience in the planning and development of roads and highways, and struck a representative of the Community Associations Institute. There were going to ultimately end up being 2 representatives of that organization, so we just cut out the one of them. Scrolling down to, I would say, bill page 4, we've kind of redrafted some of the recommendations and what this subcommittee or what this task force is going to be looking at, including a general survey and accounting of state and local codes, laws, ordinances, and policies regarding the development and operation of ADUs in areas zoned for single-family residential use. Especially those laws, codes, ordinances that look at or address the addition or residential growth in various areas. And then a new bit that was added by the House was the studying available best practices for streamlining or standardizing the application process for permits necessary to build or operate accessory dwelling units. And then finally, and this is at the bottom of page 4, the House redrafted some of the pieces that the task force would make recommendations on, including the practical issues associated with the development of accessory dwelling units on owner-occupied land zoned for single-family residential use, and then generally the impacts on local housing markets, neighborhood livability, and other policies and projects related to accessory dwelling units. The rest of the changes you see are either things that the Senate had adopted in the original version of the bill and sent over to the House, or redrafting to strike additional language to allow for the new provisions as adopted or proposed in the House's amendment to the Senate bill.
Great. Thank you very much, Matt. Delegate Foley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So my question, I'm a little confused here. So, so what we are looking at here are amendments that
To the Senate bill?
Yes.
that we are making to the Senate bill, or amendments that the Senate made to the bill that we amended to conform to the Senate bill. I'm confused about where this is.
So to clarify, the Senate amended the base bill.
Okay.
What you see here, as specifically those items that are in italics, are the House's amendments to the amended Senate bill. So to the third reader version of the bill as passed by the Senate, the bits in italics are new additional language added by the House.
Added by us.
Correct.
Well,
This committee.
that would
committee?
That are being proposed.
That are being proposed. Yeah.
That are being proposed in
that's the
subcommittee
part
today.
that's confusing me. When you say the House, you're confusing me. So you mean this committee is going to adopt these amendments? That's what we're looking at. Is that correct?
The proposal, yes, would be to
Amendments,
adopt.
right.
These are subcommittee
Okay.
amendments that I worked on with Matt and with the bill sponsor and with the chair of the committee that
Okay.
are being proposed as if we adopt them, essentially would become the subcommittee's new
Got it.
product on this bill.
Got it.
The reason that I like them is twofold. One, I think it gives the work group a little bit more teeth and a little bit more direction. I think the Senate cut out a little bit too much of the substance of what the work group is supposed to do. The other reason I like it is because MACO and MML feel very strongly about having both an urban and a rural representative respectively. And so we give them that and the Senate did not. So I think that both the bill is more fair to the locals. This version of it, these amendments are both more fair to the locals and provide a little bit more direction for the work group. Delegate Lehman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to ask really quickly if there is still any language left in this bill around affordable housing. If you mentioned that, I missed it. I know that was part the original House bill, and I believe it was taken out. I'm not sure how or when. Is that back in any form?
Matt, I know that there was some language about how this was meant to the purpose of this was to promote affordable housing. I think the Senate did cut that. Matt, what is the status of the affordability language now?
So originally, and Colleen, if you scroll to PDF page 3, bill page 3, and it'll be the lead in at line 24G. That bit about in order to help the state meet its affordable housing needs was struck by the Senate. So that was the one direct reference to affordability. I mean, with ADUs, generally the goal is affordability through increasing density. By cutting out the cost of land, you lower the cost of production. But the specific.
So if I could just follow up really quickly, Mr. Chair, is the sponsor satisfied with that?
I believe we had the sponsor on with us today, by chance.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'm satisfied with those amendments. And I believe that this gets us one step closer to at least having the conversation and gets this bill in a good position to where the Senate will be able to concur with the amendments and vice versa.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that.
Thank you both. All right. Do we have any other discussion? I think, I'm comfortable accepting a motion that we would have to pass the amendments and then we'd have to separately pass. We want to conform. We'd have to amend the House bill. And if we want to separately conform those same amendments to the Senate bill, we just vote both of them out today. But is there any other discussion before we do that? Yeah.
No, I was just going to move the amendments.
Okay. All right. So we'll move the amendments on the House. We'll do the House bill first, since that was the first bill on our agenda. We'll take up the House bill. There is a motion on these would-be E&T amendments to the House bill 239. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Seeing a motion that has been properly seconded, is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the amendments, please signify by saying aye or raise your hand. All opposed. Amendments passed. All right.
Aye.
The bill is amended.
Move the bill as amended, Mr. Chair.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, the bill as amended has been moved and properly seconded. All in favor, any further discussion, any last minute thoughts? No. Okay, all those in favor of House Bill 239 as amended, please raise your hand or signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any opposed? Seeing none, that bill passes unanimously. We'll move on to the Senate cross file. Again, I think the idea here would be to conform the two bills. So we would need to put our E&T amendments onto this bill.
Move the amendments, Mr. Chair.
I'll second. Thank you, Delegate Holmes. So we have a motion on the amendments. All those in favor of the amendments, please say yes or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The amendments passed. The bill as amended.
Move the bill as amended, Mr. Chair.
Is there a second? Okay. Any further discussion on the Senate cross file of the bill that we already have passed? Seeing, Mary, is your hand, is that a legacy hand or is that a new hand? Okay, that's a legacy hand. Okay, all right.
Legacy.
Seeing no current hands or other discussion, all those in favor of Senate Bill 382, please raise your hand or signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, any opposed? All right, great. We have successfully passed both of the ADU cross-file bills. We have one bill remaining on our agenda. And that is one of these classic eminent domain bills that this subcommittee is quickly becoming known for. This is the Town of Forest Heights bill. We heard from Senator Muse on this Senate bill of a version that we already passed in the House. As I mentioned in the hearing, y'all may remember that or residential, these two words are the only differences basically between the two versions. I've spoken with representatives from the town as well as the Senate cross-file. Everyone is on the same page, both House and the Senate, that they do want the ability to have eminent domain for residential and commercial. And in fact, that's generally the scope of the power that we've given to other municipalities in similar contexts. So we need to, in order to accomplish that, we're going to have to move an amendment to conform the Senate bill to the House bill by adding or residential. But first, before we do that, does anyone have any questions about this? Or any thoughts?
Amendment, Mr. Chair.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All right, the amendment to add or residential has been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The amendment passes. The bill is now before us as
Move the bill
amended.
as
It's the same
amended, Mr.
posture. Is there a second?
Second.
The bill is as amended has been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor of Senate Bill 506 as amended, please raise your hand and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That bill, Senate Bill 506 passes. Congrats, everyone. We got through our agenda. We may meet one more time for some last remaining business as a subcommittee next week, but I will keep you all in touch, and I appreciate everyone's speed and deliberation, and I'll see you all at 1.
Plenty of fluids, Mr. Chair.